Hello, I just wanted to have a quick chat with you all today about sunscreen here in Australia, because I know there's been a lot in the news recently about the recalls of certain brands of sunscreen, and I've had quite a few customers bring it up with me and ask questions. So I thought I would give you as much information as I could here, and then give you some references if you want to know more. So in a nutshell, when we're talking sunscreens here in Australia, anything above an SPF 30 is regulated by the Therapeutic Goods Association. So we call them TGA, and they're responsible for medicines and therapeutic devices. So when you look at sunscreens, we've got two here that I keep on the shelf. These are Australian listed sunscreens because they've got above an SPF 30 or above. UV radiation protection. The SPF factor relates to the UVB, which is where you get that initial sunburn. Okay, so if it's an SPF 30, you've got 30 times protection than you would normally have out in the sun. They also should have broad spectrum on them if you want to block out UVA rays. UVA rays are responsible for a lot of the aging damage and the sunspots that we get. But both UVA and UVB contribute to skin cancer. So what I'm saying is SPF factor shouldn't be the only thing that you consider when you buy a sunscreen. It should have a broad spectrum filter on there as well to protect you from both UVB and UVA. Did you know that these sunscreens aren't 100% effective at blocking out all UV rays? Okay. So an SPF 30 blocks out 96.7% of UVB basically, okay, so not the UVA but UVB. So even a sunscreen with an SPF 4 will block out a minimum of 75% of rays. So the moral of the story is use sunscreen to help protect you from the sun as much as possible, but don't rely on it for complete sun protection. You should be wearing protective clothing and seeking shade, hats, sunglasses, all that sort of thing. Okay. Now the other thing to do with these recalls, when they test the SPF factor, they actually do it on humans at the moment in Australia. So there's a lot of variability there. So the TGA have acknowledged that that's probably not the best practice, and international standards are moving towards a certain type of laboratory testing, and TGA are looking at adopting that. So that is catching up. The other thing that's catching up is that the regulations changed a few years ago, but the suppliers had a number of years to comply with those regulations. So if you're testing a sunscreen that might say SPF 50 on it, and it passed with the old regulations, but the suppliers haven't yet complied by the due date for the new regulations, then of course it's not going to be within the current standards. So it's not just a simple, oh, we've tested some sunscreens and they don't comply. Please keep using your sunscreen. Like I said, even an SPF 4 gives you around 75% protection of UVB rays. A lot of the sunscreens that have been recalled are mainly because they're made by one company or with the same base formulation, okay? And from what I can see, the manufacturers are doing everything they can to deal with any issues, and TGA are working through the process with them. So when you want to go out and buy your sunscreens, all right, look for broad spectrum with an SPF minimum of 30 plus. If you're using things like mineral makeup and it might have an equivalent of, say, SPF 15, that's still going to block out about 93% of UVB rays. So you're still getting some protection, but they're not a listed Australian sunscreen, okay? So by all means, layer this up for some incidental protection, absolutely, but put a hat on your head, use an umbrella and seek shade. If you've got any questions, please give me a call. I will put some references up for anyone who's really interested in knowing more of the facts. Okay, I hope that helped.